The world of Star Wars just keeps giving and giving. For the last several years now, it seems that almost no time has gone by where we haven't been on the cusp of some sort of Star Wars release, whether it be a new movie in the main trilogy, one of the various spin-offs, a Battlefront game, Respawn's Jedi Fallen Order, rumors about new TV shows, or something else entirely. Star Wars just seems to always have something new up its sleeves these days. Well, 2020 doesn't seem like it's going to be very different. Fresh off the heels of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order's relative success, we're already seeing leaks and rumors beginning to swirl about a new Star Wars game, Star Wars Project Maverick, and there appears to be plenty of good reasons for said rumors and speculation. I know what you might be thinking upon hearing this. Another day, another unsubstantiated rumor, right? Anybody can say anything at any time, so might as well just ignore it, right? Well, hold your horses. This is a real discovery made by the now infamous Twitter bot PSN Releases that constantly scans Europe's PlayStation Network for content that exists on the servers and cross-references that with the content that is publicly displayed to determine what is being hidden behind the scenes. This fairly ingenious process has already proven its own validity by discovering the existence of the Resident Evil 3 remake and the Final Fantasy VII demo prior to their respective public announcements. And those were two pretty big things to be right about. The leak shows us more than just the game's title, though. It seems that a massive splash image, likely meant for various advertisements and promotions, was also part of the leak. The image shows the title of the game with a Star Destroyer, as well as a few X-Wings below it. As these were vehicles from opposing sides in the original and new Star Wars trilogies, it would serve as a reasonable assumption that Star Wars Project Maverick may very well be a dogfighting space combat game of sorts. This wouldn't be a bad idea on EA's part, as the little taste of such a game we got in Battlefront 2 was received quite well. And let's not forget that the Star Wars legacy is no stranger to space combat games featuring the franchise's cast of interesting combat spaceships. All the way from before the early 32-bit era to now, we have seen games of this type on the GameCube, Nintendo 64, and even the Sega 32X, just to name a few. So a new game in this vein wouldn't be that crazy of an idea. And there is likely market research data proving this in the hands of EA today. With that, the question becomes about which of EA's army of developers are working on this project. The image doesn't spell that out for us, so as of now, we are left to logical reasoning, which can point us in a few different directions. Firstly, it could be Respawn. Odds are they have plenty of clout within the world of EA these days, as they are the only developer to release a controversy-free Star Wars game in many years, and a massively profitable one at that. Could it be that they have decided to use their talent to go headfirst into a Star Wars starfighting game for fans of the old Rogue Squadron games? Possibly. Although the truth is, they would be nuts to not follow up Jedi Fallen Order with its own sequel. If I were a betting man, I would acknowledge that this isn't impossible, but it's likely not the case. EA and Respawn both like money, and there would be an instant dependable built-in audience for a Fallen Order sequel that they would just have to be crazy to leave behind at this point. Another theory is that Criterion is the developer behind Project Maverick. While I still have my doubts about this, there is probably a bigger chance of this than there is of Respawn making it. The development schedule would work out nicely if they got to work on this right after wrapping up their work on the VR dogfighting level in Battlefront 2, and have been heads down with it ever since. If that's the case, the game would be ready for release as early as next year, which would be right about in line with EA's Star Wars schedule thus far. As a nice bonus, if Criterion is the developer working on this, given their experience with VR, we could potentially expect the game to be VR compatible at launch. And that would be very nice to see for gamers and EA alike, as it would only add to the allure of the game. However, With Criterion just recently being plopped back into the driver's seat of the Need for Speed franchise, there is a huge chance that they are all hands on deck with that, and that would leave little to no room for Star Wars on their agenda for at least the next year or so. There is also the possibility that Project Maverick is the, quote, smaller, more unusual project at EA Motive, unquote, that Kotaku shed light on last February, which we basically know nothing about, other than it being small and existing. Regardless of who is behind the development, it's tough to draw much from the promotion image other than this is likely an aerial combat Star Wars game. As far as a possible release window goes, 2020 would likely be too soon for a game that isn't even announced yet, and 2023 is likely too close to Respawn's follow-up to Fallen Order, so somewhere between the middle of 2021 and late 2022 is likely the target for this game to come out. One major element that we can likely add to the picture is the inclusion of a major multiplayer component, if not the entire game being an online multiplayer. According to reports, the image that was uploaded to the back end of PSN had Maverick Beta in the file name, along with a string of numbers. This seems to insinuate that a beta is involved, which insinuates that a multiplayer component is involved. Along with that, a short MP3 was also discovered alongside the artwork, which features a short snippet of a very familiar Star Wars melody being led by a flute at the beginning and a French horn at the end. Pretty typical Star Wars fare, but perhaps it is a slight rearrangement. At this point, with all the different flavors of the Star Wars theme that have been composed, that's a tough thing to be sure of though. Odds are, with all that EA has hopefully learned from the shortcomings of the new Battlefront games and the unmitigated success of the Fallen Order game, they have the feedback they need to release a satisfactory slew of Star Wars games for the next several years. If we're right about this being the type of game we think it is, it may be just what the Doctor ordered to keep the franchise moving forward with goodwill, while filling a void in the modern series very nicely. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed and would like to see more, feel free to hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell to ensure you'll be notified when new videos go up.